Go.
Welcome, racing fans, to Get Tied On. This is the Wizards Thoroughbred Racing channel, and the title of this show is a testament and a tip of the hat to legendary NYRA starter Bobby Duncan. That was the last thing he said before he flipped the latch to inform the riders to be ready for the gates to fly open. Well, the gates are flying open here. I'm Tom Amello alongside Michael Kipnis, the Wizard, and we've got 4 segments again for you today. And here's a rundown of what we're going to do. We're going to give you a brief weekly recap of the opening 4 days here at Saratoga. We're going to talk a little bit about wagering. Michael had a couple of plays on the Saturday card. We're going to talk about his opinion in the races, how he constructed the tickets. There'll be a learning to gain from that discussion. A little later on, we'll have an interview with Keri Brion. She was Hall of Fame trainer Johnathan Sheppard's assistant. She's out on her own and doing very well, and we're excited to have her with us here in the backyard at Saratoga. And after that, our final segment will be a commentary, and we're going to talk all Saratoga and what it was, what it is, and what it's going to be. So we're looking forward to spending this time with you, and we're going to get started right now with a recap of first 4 days. Michael, rain, scratches, but still opportunities.
And I had to move my beach chair several times into the grandstand, but it was tricky handicapping because you really didn't know what the conditions were going to be throughout the day. In the middle of the day, it rained. On Sunday, it was a beast of a rain in the middle of the day. And it was tough, but we fought on and we did okay.
Opening day, I thought that first race, they always schedule a 9-furlong race. Nobody's raced over the track, and the track always seems to be one of two things. It's either very tiring to that first group, or none of them wanted to go 9 furlongs.
Well, I spoke to a few trainers during the week, and they said the track is a little tighter than it was last meet when it was really deep and cuppy. But through the 4 days, I really didn't spot a bias. I thought the track was pretty fair, both turf courses and on the dirt.
Yeah, you can win from the front, you can win from the middle, you can win from the back. It took a while for horses to come up the rail, I thought, on the main track. I think Roddy Valente, I'll give him a salute and a tip of the hat when his runner came back again on the rail to get up at a pretty good price. And but all in all, bias is tricky. I've always felt bias exists when the wrong horses win easily.
Right. That's
right. When the right horses win on the front all the time, there's no bias.
That's correct.
Okay, so let's talk briefly about shippers. We mentioned on our opening show, this is an eclectic meet to come in from all over the country. We posited that Belmont form you had to take with a grain of salt, going from 1 turn around Big Sandy to 2 turn here, but 19 horses who ran last at Belmont were winners this week, and most of them had worked at Belmont, not up here at Saratoga. And several of the others were New York trainers who came back from out of town but were really Belmont based. Ellis Park Churchill, is it Churchill or is it Ellis Park? Ellis Park sent 3 winners. They only had 1 worker who had worked here at Saratoga of the 3. The other one was at Keeneland, and the other one was at a training center someplace. Keeneland and Monmouth managed 2 wins. They were all out-of-town works. Pimlico, 3 wins from the Pimlico circuit.
That was surprising to me, but that's what happened.
Was that Antonucci? Was that Phil Antonucci?
I think Phil Antonucci went 2 for 2.
Yeah.
And I think both those horses might have come from out of town.
I think the most interesting thing to me, and many years ago, a real good handicapper named John Angelo brought to Saratoga the original Saratoga handicapper, and he tracked trainers, and he tracked how the track was playing, and he also tracked workouts. And one of his angles was what he called the combo, race over the track and a workout over the track and so on. Anyhow, from first-time starters, there were 16 first-time starters entered, 6 of them won. 5 of the 6 had worked over the Saratoga, either training track or the main track.
Always a big plus when you're handicapping, especially in the beginning of the meet, to see which horses did train well, especially over the training track, which is deeper than the main track.
There we go. Second paper we lost in 2 shows. You want to talk about in Italia. There was all sorts of controversy and Twitterese, if you will, about the 4 Chad Brown entrants in that race. And I thought PJ Campo gave a great explanation of how that happens and why it's not Chad's fault. But let's talk about the In Italia race.
Well, In Italian went off at 2 to 5 and was the dominant speed in the race. And I knew the horse was going to set a moderate pace and looked like really real hard horse to pick against. But when I looked at the race after the fact, and that does me or bettors no good, is that at 1 1/8, it's not her best distance. And she proved it that day. A horse that was inferior to her on paper actually nailed her in the closing yards.
She ran gamely, certainly.
But I think In Italian is absolutely at her best at a mile or up to 1 1/16. At 1 1/8, she's going to win races, but that last few yards really caught up to her, and she had no excuse. I'd be surprised if Chad Brown doesn't cut her back and keep her. I would say the Breeders' Cup Mile is, a race that they would point to. I don't think you're going to see her at 1 1/8 anymore.
No, I would doubt it. Let's talk about the opening 4 days trainer stats. I called Wiz on the phone just before they left from Belmont to Saratoga. I think it was either Maggie or Acacia interviewed Linda Rice and congratulated her on winning the trainer title and talked about her prospect for Saratoga. And Linda Rice kind of shyly and demurred and said, well, at Saratoga, I don't really like to get into it early. I kind of like, everybody's trying to win early, and I like to kind of wait till the end. Yeah, she waited to the end. She started 13 horses, 5 winners, 4 second, 1 third. She gets a tip of the hat for early meet success and diversion.
Well, it's really funny. I get most of my great ideas when I'm sleeping. And in the middle of the night last night, for some reason, I'm thinking of Linda Rice, and certainly just as a trainer. And I've come to the conclusion that I think she has one hell of a shot to win this meet. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you why. She doesn't have the type of horses that Todd Pletcher has and Chad Brown has. But what she has is claiming stock. And she went out of town on a purchase binge and bought a lot of claimers for herself and for other owners. And you can win a lot of races if you know how to play the claiming game here and you have claiming horses. And that's exactly what she's doing. She doesn't have stakes horses. She doesn't have those type of caliber horses, but she can run horses at different levels. She's got a full barn. She's going to be one to reckon with this meet because of just her specialty, which is she's just dominant in the claiming game, and she can run even 2 horses, maybe 3 in a race if she wants to, especially as the meet winds down and she's in contention to win the title.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to follow. The next trainer we want to talk about here is trainer Gary Contessa. Now, most of you know Gary retired, left the game, and then came back in the game as a private trainer for, I think it was Bell Gable Farm, and he did that for a couple of years, and now he's back here in New York. And there are a couple of things I want to say about Gary Contessa. I've had opportunity to spend time with him at seminars, at presentations that we've been at together. He is as good an ambassador for this game as there is. and he's a good guy, and he's a good trainer. He never, I shouldn't say never, he rarely gets great horses, but he's great for his owners because he spots those horses well, and he wins purses for owners that keep him in the game. And I think you appreciate that about him.
Yeah, and look, he had the guts to throw in a first-time starter in a stakes race.
And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to interrupt
and win.
Here. Guts, yes, and to hear him explain it, that it was, they're all just not winning to one, if you will. They all just won one race. Would I be afraid, if it was a not winners to one allowance? But I need to say this to you all. There were a lot of folks who kind of were interested in Becky's Joker. First off, because of the works, and second, some folks dove into the pedigree. There was some damn side pedigree there. Well, the key, in my opinion, and I saw this but missed it. Let's talk handicapping and gut and intuition and brains. Here are the workouts for Becky's Joker. 5 furlongs June 11th, 6 furlongs June 16th, 5 furlongs June 24th, 5 furlongs July 2nd, and a blowout before the race. This horse was as dead fit as could be. Now, I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, back in 2018, in a maiden race here in New York, Gary Contessa had a horse named Bustin' to Be Loved. I picked him third, and I bet the horse small to win. Had the same exact workout pattern.
In a stake race?
No, this was in a maiden race. But I'm talking about that workout pattern, to me, was a key that this horse looked pretty fit. That's a lot of furlongs in a truncated period of time.
And the other thing I just want you to make note is that so far, the 2-year-olds are not that great this season in both filly or male division. So a horse like that was well prepped for the race, certainly had the chance to upset, because there's no killers at this point.
Yep. It's interesting. I mean, it's early in the meet. Gary took his shot, and we're glad he did. So congratulations. That's going to take us to the end of this segment. We'll be back right after this. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for sticking with us here on Get Tied On the Wizards Thoroughbred Racing channel. It's at the quarter pole, and this is our education/wagering segment. So, Michael, set the stage and talk about the play.
There's no better game than racing, that you can make a bet in a race and feel like you're a hero, you're infallible, you're going to break the bank. Mm-hmm. And then an hour later, you feel like an idiot. You can wear a dunce cap. And that's exactly what happened to me on Saturday. And the races were a race 8 and race 10. So it wasn't that much of a gap, being a genius and an idiot, right? in 1 hour. So on my betting strategy sheet that is on wizardracingsports.com, where I sell my products, I give on one of my products selections and wagers for every race. Occasionally I'll pass a race, but that's on an occasion. So in race 8, I had a horse I absolutely loved. He was not only a crystal ball best bet, but he was the pick of the day, which is the strongest play around the country.
So that's your strongest opinion on the card, the pick of the day.
It's the strongest play. So if I'm doing Del Mar, Saratoga, or I'm looking at Monmouth, or whatever track, that's the one play that is my strongest play.
Okay.
And that play on Saturday was Ichiban, okay, the number 10 horse in race 8.
Linda Rice.
So I constructed this wager, which is right in print. I'm actually reading you the bet that I gave out to everybody and that I bet with my own money. I made a win bet on Ichiban, 3-1. Decent value on a horse, I thought, was very live. Wins, pays $8.10. Then I make an exacta. The 10, Ichiban, over 2 horses, reversing for just a third. So if I'm betting $30 on 2 exactas is $60, I'm reversing it for 10. So the total wager is $80. The exacta paid $55.50. So I'm making 15 times 55.50. Beautiful score. Doesn't stop there. I give out a trifecta. 2 trifectas, both for $1, a $15 wager each one. 10 Ichiban over 8-11, 2 horses in the second hole, with all in the third hole. Now, I usually go all in the third hole because I'm not that smart that I can narrow it down to 5 or 6 horses.
You've said that to me before, that you're not that smart.
Right. And I'm not. And what happens was I wasn't that smart, but I was smart because a bomb came in the third hole. So that trifecta for a $30 investment came back paid $187.24 for a $2 wager. Okay, and I gave it out for $1. Okay, so basically for the $1, you're getting 93 and change for that $30 investment. Cashed every ticket. Brilliant bet, right?
What we want you to understand from this discussion is how he constructed the ticket. So there was a win bet, there was an exacta bet plus a reverse because you're not that smart.
Right.
And the trifecta bet with the all. He built a pyramid, more on the bottom, because almost anybody can run third. And really, that's the education, that's the learning. Okay, let's go to the rest.
So now I'm fat and happy, okay? I think I'm gonna take the bank home with me on Saturday afternoon. Get to the 10th race, okay? And the 10th race is the Sanford Stakes. So in the Sanford Stakes, I thought the favorite, trained by Steve Asmussen, I forget the horse's name.
Golden Sweep.
1 to 5 shot, 2 to 5 shot. On paper, looked like a mortal lock. To me, okay? In every way. I hated the field.
Well, 2 to 5, it looked like a mortal lock to more than you.
Yeah, right, exactly. So this is my wager. I take the 9.
Golden Sweep.
Right. Over, I make one exacta, a main exacta. Because I thought there was one horse, it was a Mark Cassie horse coming in, that I thought was the stranger in a weak field and could get second. That was my main exacta, 9 over 7. And I reversed it for a quarter as much. So that was the wager, it was a smart play. So if I bet $100, 9-7, I'm reversing it for 25. My next play was the moronic move that I made, okay? I took the 9 over the 4 and the 6, and I did not reverse the exacta. So the 4 horse was Yo-Yo Candy. And Yo-Yo Candy was 46 to 1. Now, the last time Yo-Yo Candy faced Golden
Sweep
was beaten 10 lengths. So when I'm handicapping the race, I'm saying, how the heck is this horse going to make up 10 lengths on an improving lightly raced 2-year-old trained by Steve Asmussen, and this horse trained by somebody that's much more low profile? So they added blinkers, but I still don't think the horse is going to make up 10 lengths. So I don't reverse the exacta. Okay, the $2 exacta paid $208. So after the race, I'm not even cognizant of the price of Yo-Yo Candy. I know it's a long shot, but everybody's a long shot when there's a 1 to 5 shot, a 2 to 5 shot. When that horse paid $94 and the $2 exacta pays $208, I'm saying to myself, what a stupid error I made. And the reason it's stupid is you can have an opinion that the horse can't lose, but crap happens.
It's called...
And you have to, at that price, if I'm betting $100 exacta, turn it around for $10. Like, why be a genius? $10 exacta.
Because you made Yo-Yo Candy your third pick.
But it doesn't matter. It's 40-something to 1.
No, I know what
you're saying.
The
odds are there. I could have reversed those 2 horses, 4-6 over the 9, and collected.
Yes.
And then the trifecta paid for 50 cents $205. Now I gave a trifecta out. 9 over 4-6 over all $1 for $21. That was the ticket. For 50 cents, I could have done, just because things happen. The horse stumbled out of the gate, the 2-5 shot, and that cost the win. So in essence, what I'm trying to say is, we're not brilliant. Like, things happen. Even though I make a wager, when a horse is a big price like that and the payoff is so big, you just turn it around. And I knew that horse was going to be a big price, and I didn't get anything out of the pools. And this was a big bet for me. So basically, I lost a lot of the money that I had won in the previous race for not making the right moves and just playing it defensively at a big price.
I just want to say, we opened the show last week, this section last week, with the idea of philosophy and style of play. And what you're talking about is philosophy and style of play that gives you every chance to crush, but every chance to conserve bankroll. There are some people who would say, I just want to crush, I'm not interested in conserving bankroll. I have no problem with that. If that's your philosophy and style, fine. But we're talking about trying to keep people in the game and not tap them out.
That's right. And this would have been just a defensive play for a few bucks we would have cashed a ticket.
Okay. Well, that brings us to the end of this segment. What are we doing next?
We're going to give out a horse to bet next time out that the Wizard spotted in the first week of racing at Saratoga.
We'll be back.
Got the horse right here, the name is Paul Revere, and he's a guy that says if the
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a horse not to watch, but to look for and bet. Michael?
Horse that I want you to bet back, but only in this spot, going 5.5 furlongs on the turf in a maiden special weight race, which you will see this horse return later in the meet. Came in race 11 Saturday, and it was the number 3 Cigarette Boat, trained by Mike Maker. It was his first start on the turf, off a layoff, cutting back to 5.5. The pace was very strong. He was on top of the pace. He put away the other speeds, and he held on gamely into the shadow of the wire, and was overhauled by 2 closers. The horses that were involved in that pace finished up the track, and one of them was the favorite. So watch for Cigarette Boat coming back in this same maiden special weight spot at 5.5 later this meet.
And that's important, because you don't like a watch list. You like a horse coming into a particular spot that you're anticipating.
That's right. And, post position, the way the race sets up is important, but I like the fact that he showed tactical speed. He doesn't need the lead to be effective. He could rate, but that's the conditions. 5.5, maiden special weight on the turf.
We'll be back with an interview with Keri Brion.
You want the triple crown?
Welcome back to Down the Stretch. We moved our tack inside because in Saratoga, rain is possible anytime, and that's what it's been this week.
Yeah.
A lot of rain. And my special guest is someone I really wanted to come on the show, and that's Keri Brion. And obviously, in the jump world, people know who you are. And you're transitioning to, you'll always have jump horses, I imagine, but you are going to be getting flat horses, or have flat horses.
Yeah.
But I'm the Wizard, so I look into my crystal ball and I see that sitting with me is going to be a trainer that is going to be a household name. I'm going to put you on the map in the next 30 minutes, but I know I just have a feeling. And women have really come to the forefront in a man's world, right? This game is filled with men and very few women. I mean, when I think of a great woman ambassador to the game, it was Julie Crone, the first one, Robin Smith. But recently you have trainers like Linda Rice, who beat everybody's butt at Belmont, is leading the meet at Saratoga.
Yep. And,
her game is the claiming game, and she does it like plays it like a fiddle.
Yeah.
And that's why I talked about it earlier in the show. I'm predicting she can win this meet because she knows where her wheelhouse is.
Yep.
And that's the claiming game. She made a lot of claims, and she is spotting them well here. You take Sherry DeVoe, doing great.
Yep.
You take, even on the breeding end, Barbara Banke, okay, for Stone Street. She's giving Godolphin, and those big breeders a run for their money.
Yep.
Jane Lyons,
Yep.
breeder of Flightline, right?
Yep.
Is those two are just killing it, right? And then you have bloodstock agents that are great, that are doing great.
Yep.
So I just want to know, when you were a little girl, okay, you were 5 years old, what did you think you wanted to do with your life? Like, what was in, just thinking about, as a kid, did you think about horses?
Yeah, it was funny. I don't come from a horse background at all. My parents were not into horses. Nobody was. I think it was my aunt got me riding lessons when I was like 5, I'd say. And I was hooked. I loved horses. I was doing a little bit of the showing and eventing and stuff like that. I was doing that, and I think I was about 10 years old. I actually grew up down the street from Silmar Farm. They pulled out Princess of Silmar. And my father went down the road and asked them, would you have a job for like a 10-year-old to do whatever? So I started there on weekends, like, scrubbing water buckets and cleaning tack and doing that kind of thing, and all while riding my show horses. And I think I was 13, and they put me on my first racehorse and were like, go gallop that. And I was hooked. I mean, I knew from that day forward it was going to be racehorses.
But you go to school, right?
I was. I was in high school at the time, so I was, any day I had a free day, I was in there. Weekends I was there. My senior year of high school, I did an internship where I was able to work all morning, so I rode. And then I went to college on a track scholarship for a semester.
Right,
I was a pole vaulter, and I didn't stay sound. I would have been very unsound.
You didn't use Lasix?
Yeah, no, I needed some help, and I didn't get it. So I came home and I finished my degree at Westchester. And when I did that, Houghton's kind of had they filled my position basically. And my good friend Mel Williams was working for Johnathan Sheppard, and she said, we need a rider. Why don't you come over? And this was right around the Informed Decision, Forever Together era. And I remember walking in that barn and seeing those horses, and I was like, there was a whole different world to all of this.
Right.
And it all really started there. And, I was a rider for Johnathan, then I was an assistant, and then I rode jump races for a bit. And then towards the end of his career, he started giving me, I was fortunate enough to be towards the end of his career because he started to give me delegate more power to me than he had probably any other assistant, because he just wasn't able to do things like he once was, So I got the opportunity to make relationships with owners and, all of that. So when he retired, here I am now. But yeah, it was horse racing from a very young age, believe it or not.
So, I've been coming to Saratoga since the 60s, well before you were born, and every year. And we were talking earlier about some of the it was a 4-week meet.
Yeah.
For a long time.
Yeah.
And I was talking about some of the flat trainers that were staples of the game. Johnathan Sheppard, for as long as I could remember, was when you thought of jump races at Saratoga, he completely dominated it every year.
Yeah.
Like he won everything.
Yeah.
I mean, they even
Yeah.
changed the racing riders, whatever that race is, to his name
Yeah.
now. Then he had grass horses for Augustin,
Yes.
and he was unbelievable. So I don't know, I've never said hello to Johnathan Sheppard, but I have images in my head of what people are like.
Yeah.
So I think, tell me if I'm right, I think of Johnathan Sheppard as almost like the Alan Jerkins to flat racing, Johnathan Sheppard to jump racing and turf. Okay,
Yeah,
this
definitely.
well-educated, soft-spoken, very introspective, a genius, a horse whisperer.
Yeah.
Definitely. Is that correct to
Definitely.
assume that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so many different scenarios, not just jumpers, flat horses too, that horses were sent to him with issues. And when I say issues, I mean like
wouldn't train, couldn't go in the starting gate. You know, if someone had a rogue horse, they'd send it to Johnathan, and I can't tell you how many times I thought, this will never work, this will never, and damned if in a month's time the horse was running and winning. You know, he just had a way, he just had that instinct, he knew what to do with almost any kind of scenario with a horse.
So tell me, like, you're an assistant trainer.
Yeah.
Main assistant. And like, like I've had people apprentice under me, and I have my way of talking to them and teaching them a style, right, that I've perfected over many years of being in the business. I never put anybody down. I try to teach, the game technically and the wisdom of the game. But how did you and Johnathan connect, talking to each other? Like, what did he sit you in an? Like, I mean, I don't imagine him sitting you in an office. No, but what's the relationship?
He was interesting because he wasn't. I don't think he was always that easy. Not that he wasn't easy to get along with, but he wasn't that forthcoming, really. Like, we just got along. We kind of just had a sort of just understanding that was never really even talked about. I mean, I just kind of picked up on what he wanted, when he wanted it done, how he wanted it done, and just tried to execute. And like I said, as the years wore on and towards the end of his career, like, he wasn't in the barn that much with health issues. And, we communicated over the phone, but he left a lot. Like, he started to trust me. He trusted me a lot more with the horses. And he knew I was just doing his training program, which is basically what he instilled in me, how he wanted things done. And when you did it wrong, you knew about it. Trust me. Like, he was quick to tell you when you were wrong. But, if you could take his criticism, which I think I did a good job of doing that. I didn't let him, he could be mean at times, but that just was him, and I didn't let that kind of get to me. You just sort of take it and you're like, right, I'm not going to do that again. And you move on. And we just had a really good understanding. We always really got along. And look, I'm very fortunate to have had 11 years under him. I learned a lot. And, I credit the fact I've only been training 3 years. I have an Eclipse Award. I have 4 Grade 1 wins. Like, I credit a lot of that to what I learned with him,
So now you go out on your own. And in your first year, right now you're alone. You're and it's a new ball game.
Yeah, it's a lot different.
And in your first year, if I recall, you win 3 Grade 1 races at Saratoga.
Yeah.
How obviously you get the horses and you got good horses.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to ask you how the heck did you do that, because you came with qualifications and experience, and horses make trainers.
For sure.
And trainers develop horses and keep them going. But the question I have is, when you went on your own, what did you do differently than what you learned from Johnathan Sheppard? Well,
like, I was really proud of that, because the horses that I won with were horses I picked out for owners. Even when Johnathan was still training them, but those horses I found in Ireland. So those were horses that I had picked out and helped develop at Johnathan's that then came to me, of Rod and Alice Moorhead, Baltimore Bucko, and the Mean Queen. And so one, obviously I'm set up at Fair Hill Training Center. Right. So Johnathan was out of his own farm. So I had to kind of learn pretty quick, how do I do this at the training center? I'm not,
how to do what?
How do I train horses?
Okay.
Jumpers are a little bit different now I don't train them much different than I train my flat horses in some ways. Like, they still breeze. Jump racing has gotten so fast. There's not a last fence. They have to sprint home 5/8 of a mile. So the days are gone of, a slow plotter being a good steeplechase horse. Like, you have to have a fast horse. So, my horses that are coming up here that are running tomorrow in the Grade 1, like, they worked in 101 for 5/8 101 on the Tapeta the other day, which is not much different than most flat horses do. But yes, I had to figure out how to implement the things I wanted to implement from him and how to do it at Fair Hill. And it was all a little bit of a guessing game, and, figuring out what worked, what didn't. And like you said, I was very lucky that first year to have 2 quality horses that took me on. We unfortunately lost Baltimore Bucko at Belmont. He had a fall, but the Mean Queen carried on to the rest of the year. We won 4 Grade 1s that year. I mean,
So now, like, you want to definitely, your goal is to have a mixture of jump horses and flat horses.
I would like to have more flat horses than jump horses. The reality of jump racing, as great as the game as it is, you know, it's great up here. This is nice money and everything. But when you're doing it at the hunt meets in the spring and the fall, it's, you know, it's not as much money. It's a lot of traveling. It's a lot to do. And I love it, and I always will do it. And I've gotten a great crossover with some owners, Jordan Wyckoff, Kirk Wyckoff, Saul Kuman. They've all sent me some horses to make into jumpers, which has been awesome. And I hope to continue to do that. But, you know, I want to make a living in the game. And I'd like to also, this probably sounds wrong, but the jumping is pretty easy. It's a very small, not easy, but it's a very small pond. You know, you get good horses and you're a very big fish in a small pond.
I've never gone to a track, you know, to a jump meet or to a race outside of Saratoga.
It's fabulous.
Do a lot of fans show up?
You do. You get like you know, so you have your hunt meets that are at whatever, you know, wherever they are, you know, whether it be Nashville or South Carolina or wherever, and wherever the county is that they're in, you get everyone that comes in from that area, and it's a big day and a big ordeal, and it's great. I mean, tailgating, and it's a big party, really, and they're a lot of fun. I mean, it's a great atmosphere. It's really a lot of fun. Good day, but you know, I love it. I always will. I hope I'm doing this for a good long time with some good jumpers. But
so is there betting at all these tracks?
So no, most of the hunt meets, there's only the Virginia hunt meets, the Virginia Gold Cup. There is pari-mutuel wagering through Virginia Racing Commission, and Far Hills, which is in New Jersey, through Monmouth. Otherwise, there's no betting, and that's a big thing. If we can get betting involved, I think.
No bookmakers like the old days.
Well,
sitting,
there's
you know,
some little bit, little
board,
bit, but not, you know, it's not big. Betting is not really a big thing, and that is, I think, what hurts jump racing. You know.
Is medication rules the same as is it the same crossover to?
They are. You know, they have adopted the HISA rules, even though we're not covered under HISA. The NSA has adopted. Now, obviously, some of that's a little bit on the honor system because they're not going around to each farm, you know, from Virginia to South Carolina to Pennsylvania and seeing. But neither is HISA. I mean, the farms, obviously. But yes, we're under the same medication guidelines, shock waving rules, everything like that.
Are there similar issues that are facing the thoroughbred racing game now, where they're actually testing for medications? You know, you have, you know, people that have been suspended, and you suspect, you know, and HIS is trying to clean up the game.
Yeah.
Do you have that in jump racing?
Maybe not to that extent. There's not as many trainers, but there's definitely like. You see a difference in spring results to summer results sometimes, like, you know, hunt meets to the racetrack, because the racetrack gets stricter. So, I mean, I'm not saying anybody's using or doing whatever, but it's always, I mean, of course you wonder, you know, someone wins all the races in the spring and they get to the summer and, you know, maybe they're not doing as well, or vice versa. I mean, look, I think people think about that all the time, right? Someone's doing good, they're automatically doing something.
Right,
so
right.
That's a fine line. I don't know that I'd say it's definitely not as big of a problem in jump racing. I mean, I don't think there's nearly as corrupt people as some of the flat racing can be, but sure. I mean, I think everybody, you know, you look around, people push an envelope.
So it's
there.
Right.
It's just not as big.
And you don't have the money. It's not the money isn't as big.
Right. There's not as much.
Big
exactly.
money attracts nefarious types of things.
Exactly. So I wouldn't say that's as big. That's as much of an issue in jump racing as it probably is. There's not as many of us either. So
now, do you handicap a jump race? Like, do you actually like? Okay, you look tomorrow. You have 2 in. Okay,
yeah.
So here's like the peak. Now I'm a jump expert. Okay, I put a selection. I have a wager. I gave out a bet tomorrow. Okay, on my sheet.
Okay.
I actually do trips. And I could tell you different, you know, like Naylor and Riverdee Stable and Leslie Young, Jack Fisher. You know, I know them all. No, I'm just kidding. I know nothing about jump racing. Actually, Tom is the expert. He feeds me the information. But what I want to ask you is, okay, we're filming this on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And it'll air probably tomorrow night. So
Yeah.
your races are going to be over.
It's going to be over.
So now you see the field tomorrow. It's a grade 1. It's $150,000. It's
Yep.
no chump change. For you, same 10%?
Yeah.
Okay, 15 large ready
Yeah.
for your pocket,
Yeah.
which you could use.
Yeah.
Okay, so especially for gas money,
Yes.
the way you travel.
This is true.
So do you look at the PPs and say, how do you tell your rider, like, okay, like, look at this race. Tell me how you would look at this race.
Well, so first of all,
say anything to your
I already
rider?
know the horses. So like, because it's such a small world, the jump racing, I can tell you everything about every single one of these horses except Salvina, who is an import, which on form would not be the caliber of these horses. Now you're watching this now, he's probably won by 20 lengths, but
Right.
on paper, he doesn't belong. He's not
Okay.
good enough.
Go ahead.
But after that, I mean, it's a pretty, my two, Welshman. You can't discount Noah in the Ark. I mean, his runs last year, obviously carrying a lot less weight in the Lonesome Glory, but then going to Far Hills on level weights and running second to a very good horse. The only thing is those trips were both longer, 2.5 and 2 and 5, and we're going basically a flat 2 miles.
Right.
It's going to be fast. I wouldn't necessarily discount kind of a bit of more of a long shot, but Wes Newton, he's in good form. He's going to go to the lead. That's who's going to go to the lead. So basically, my horse Freddie Flintshire is morning line favorite. He's very, very fast. For a jumper, he's very fast, and he can kind of set himself anywhere. So Parker's instructions would be settle him wherever he's comfortable in jumping, because if they don't jump, it doesn't matter. They have to be able to, jump well and relaxed, and not, if they're fumbling over every jump, they're not going to have any energy left when it's time to sprint home.
Right.
So they have to settle wherever they're comfortable and can jump their best.
So that leads me to this question. I look at Freddie Flintshire before he was a jumper.
Yeah.
And I look at his turf form, and it's okay, nothing special. Okay. So now it's trained by Brandon Walsh on the flats.
Yeah.
And then it's switched over to you.
Yeah.
And the horse goes, so it's October 13th, 2021. And 1 month later, the horse is over the jumps.
Yeah.
And starts improving.
Yeah.
Question: how did you know that this horse could potentially be a good jump horse when it's a very mediocre flat horse?
So I watched his runs, and if you watch him, he doesn't break out of the gate. He's always leaving himself with a ton to do, and he comes flying late. But in these kind of level, he's running at Keeneland, Kentucky Downs. I was actually at Kentucky Downs. I had a horse in the race where he was favored and finished 6th. He's running in good maiden races, and if you watch him, he breaks slow, he comes running. And it was actually Paul Madden, Brendan's assistant, called me and said, I really think he'd be a jumper. You saw him at Kentucky Downs. He made a point of showing him to me at Kentucky Downs. He's like, he's going to the sale. If you'll buy him for this much now, you can just have him.
How did he know was he guessing, or was there something?
Paul has been around jumpers and whatnot, so he kind of knows. And I love Flintshire as a jump sire. As you see, Welshman is also by Flintshire. I have a couple topic changer. I have a couple other Flintshires in my barn. They all jump. Every single one of them. I think Flintshire, every starter he's had over jumps has won. It's like an incredible stat. He's like leading.
Bloodline. Bloodline.
I don't know. They have really good minds, and they all jump. So anyway, I called up Patrick, who owns him, and I just kind of was like, "You're buying him. you have to buy him. You have to." And he did, and he had such a good mind that we jumped him the first day, jumped some logs, and he was great. And
just a training.
To see if he was athletic or what he thought. And he was a weak little 3-year-old. He just had such a good mind. I was like, "Well, just give him a run." And Parker did a really good job just taking care of him, because he made a couple blunders of jumps and whatnot. And it wasn't until, so we put him away for the winter. He had some time to mature, and he came back out in Aiken. As you can see, he was 3rd again. And he didn't jump the greatest that day either. He was just kind of, it takes a while to develop them.
Was he jumping over that way?
He was when he would get in tight, he would kind of just crash through them, and that takes a lot of energy out of them. So just greenness, that just takes him a minute to kind of get it. And then we just we had that, and then we went to Charlotte, and it just clicked. And that day he romped, and from then on it's been, he came up here, he won at Charlotte, we came up here and then never won two. He romped again. He just got beat in the novice stake up here, then just to my other horse, just more experienced horse. Gave him, actually his owner was fabulous. He's a 4-year-old, he was sound, but we just gave him the fall off to let him grow up. And he's a much stronger, much better horse this year.
So Hendricks rode him in a lot of races, except for last time out.
Yep. He was hurt.
That's a big deal, right? To have a rider, a journeyman he was an apprentice.
He was an apprentice at the time, but he's not anymore. He was champion jockey last year. But actually, like, Danny Mullins is one of the best riders in Ireland that rode him at Nashville. Parker was out with a concussion, and the horse did not jump one fence for him. I mean, he jumped terribly at Nashville, and the horse and Parker have a really, really good relationship. And I probably shouldn't have even run him at Nashville. It was 2 weeks back. We just got excited because he won by 14 lengths.
This guy was a great Irish rider.
Amazing.
So, here you have
it's just that's the thing. It's just not that simple. Horses, you're jumping fences. So Parker's very quiet, sits very, very quiet. Danny has a little bit of a different riding style, and Freddie just didn't really take to it. I mean, he ran fine, but as you can see, it says ran evenly, and that's about it.
Right.
Part of that was I ran him 2 weeks back and shipped him out to Nashville, and I shouldn't have done that. But.
So now you have, how many flat horses do you have?
Oof. Probably 50.
50?
Yeah. A lot of 2-year-olds.
Where are they?
I'm in the Mid-Atlantic. Fairhill, Delaware, Colonial Downs.
Didn't you win a stake at Colonial on this weekend? Or didn't you run at Colonial?
I ran at Colonial. I just got beat.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have 50.
Yeah, I have probably about 70 horses total. I'll probably have maybe 45 flat horses and the rest jumpers, something along those lines. Definitely more flat horses than
How many
jumpers.
assistants do you have?
So I have an assistant on the ground at Fairhill, and also a riding/traveling assistant who's up here with these horses today. And then I have an assistant at Delaware and an assistant at Colonial. So
you and of those, how many are 2-year-olds?
Horses, I'd say we have about 15 to 22-year-olds.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, your operation has blossomed.
Yeah.
Do you have any will you ship to?
So I ship up, and I do have a few in the next couple of weeks that should be coming up here. So.
And obviously, I would imagine you're shipping to win. I mean,
we're going to be very selective on the horses that run up here. I had a horse in a New York bred maiden special weight the other day. I think he was 5-1 morning line. He had a really good shot, but it came off the grass. So he didn't run. So we haven't had a flat runner yet. I have a nice Flintshire for Parkland Thoroughbred, Steve Weston, who we'll bring up here.
2-year-old?
No, that's actually an older horse. 2-year-olds, I have a few. I have one.
What are some of their sires?
I have a Catholic boy, actually, that seems like he can. New one that was a little bit, you're unsure of the sire, but it's he can run. This one seems like he can run. I have a Connect. I have a Nyquist.
Okay.
I have some nice horses.
So, if you know the state of the game now.
Yeah.
And we love the game, but we also are troubled by.
Of course.
So if you can make one big change in the game, like if you could change something, what comes to mind that you would like?
I'd love to change the perception of what we are to the outside world. You hear it all the time and it's very hard to, you just have to not even look at it on social media and whatnot. But that we don't care about the horses and that these horses are, being made to do this. Jump racing and flat racing, both. The jumpers get it a lot because, God forbid, we're making them run over jumps. And, flat racing's the same way. And look, there are some bad people that do wrong by their horses that don't help that cause. But, I'd love, Fair Hill is just like horse heaven. You'd love to just bring these people, come to Fair Hill for a day and see all my horses get turned out before they get trained every single day, and just stuff like that, because we get a really bad, there's a bad perception that is around racing like that and how we care for our horses, and our horses get taken care of better than we take care of ourselves,
right.
I'd say, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, it's
I mean,
hard
there's
to hear that all the
love.
time.
I mean, I go
Yeah.
through barns and there's so many great trainers that
Yeah.
love their horses, and
Exactly.
you know, there's only a few that are rotten apples that ruin
Right.
the game, and the game really
That's the thing.
isn't.
It's not like that, and it just takes. It's a shame that those very few, you know, put us where we are, because it's such a small number, really. For the majority, you know, we really. I mean, we, you know, wake up in the morning, go to bed at night. Our lives revolve around the horses.
What time do you go to bed at night? Or what time do you try to fall asleep?
It just depends, really, on what's going on. But I try to be in bed by 10.
And you get up at 4.
Yeah.
So I know it's hard to have hobbies.
Yeah.
And you know, I know PJ Campo said he goes to Disney World, right? And
Yeah.
collects Disney pins.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So what does Keri Brion do to just decompress? Like,
When I can, I love going to Ireland. I have kind of a group of friends over there. It is horse related, but I try to go over. I buy a lot of horses from there, but I always, when I do go on buying trips or whatever, I always try to set aside
do you
a
go to
couple
pubs?
days. Yes.
Do you like beer?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah,
Beer's-
vodka actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not really a beer person, more of
Okay,
like a person, but
vodka straight
yeah,
up, or
no,
what?
club soda and vodka.
Club soda and
Yeah.
vodka. Okay.
It's nice. I mean, I was supposed to go to Ireland in June, and when the air quality got real bad there for a couple of weeks, I had a bunch of horses cancel and get postponed, so I never got away. And it's just nice because when you go away far enough, there's only so much you can do from being far, and you can just let go, you know?
Do you have a special meal that, like, sometimes you just crave, like at 9 o'clock at night? Do you ever get a craving of something, and what's your go-to?
I would actually really, it's random, but I like love tacos. Like
Okay.
actual, like the guys at the barn bring me like real tacos. I love tacos,
right.
yeah.
Do you like ice
Yeah.
cream?
I wouldn't be the biggest ice cream, but when I'm up here, Ben and Jerry's for
Okay,
sure.
okay,
Yeah.
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 What about, like, movies, Netflix?
Oh.
Do you like a certain series?
You know, I don't always obviously have time to really watch, but I was a huge Manifest fan. I got into Manifest, and I was like not doing anything else but watching Manifest there for a while.
Do you watch it like on an iPad or like?
Yeah,
you know,
I do in bed. Yeah, and then you
some
stay up later
with some
and
tacos
then
and then
yeah,
call Ben
exactly.
and call Grubhub to
for
deliver
Ben and Jerry's.
your Ben and
Exactly.
Jerry's.
Those are like for the bad days. The ice cream comes out when it's just been a real bad day, and you just eat your feelings.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you on, because I'm a big rooter for you, and I
thank
know
you.
that everybody who's watching this, and there's going to be a lot of people are going to know Keri Brion, and they're going to know her now, and they're going to the industry's really going to know her within, I'd say, how about 3 years?
3 years. That sounds
Right?
good.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I'll have you back for
Yeah.
when you're famous, rich and
Perfect.
famous, and I don't know if you'll come on the Wizard Show anymore. But thank you very much for coming on. And our next segment will be the Gallop Out, and we'll be back shortly.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen, and we're ready for the Gallop Out. And today's Gallop Out is about Saratoga, the race meet. Saratoga, the race meet that was, and the Saratoga, the race meet that is. Now, I met Michael here at the track in 1988, and I haven't missed a day at this track since then, because I'm here every day, 24 days, 36 days, 40 days, handicapping, media, and selected. And there's been a lot of changes. And yesterday I was playing golf with, fortunate enough to be playing golf with Tom Durkin, and I talked with him a little bit about how the meet has changed from his perspective. And basically he said this, and it was so prescient. He said, you know, nobody wants to go to a racetrack like it was in 1863. And so
Didn't they build a place?
Yes,
They even built a place called 1863.
They built the 1863 place, and it is comfortable.
Right.
Nobody really wants to be in an uncomfortable track anymore. So what's happened over the years, Michael, the grandstand, the box seats. You know, the original box seats here at Saratoga are as uncomfortable as you could believe. They had the worst chairs. Dogwood used to buy their own cushions for the chairs.
And I used to have to bring a portable vacuum cleaner to wipe out the cobwebs that still exist.
Yeah, it's just not what it was, and what is that was is still enjoyable, and everything they're doing as they upgrade and monetize the asset makes it more comfortable. But Michael, we enjoyed the lack of comfort.
Look, it was a 4-week meet when we were growing up. And, my father used to pack like 7 people into his Lincoln with the windows rolled up, right? With the leprechaun smoking a cigarette, Brucey the Brain Braverman, a bunch of his characters.
Yeah.
And my brother and I squeezed in the middle of the back seat. And we would drive up to Saratoga, and it was like anticipation. It was 4 weeks, that's it. And then the races would run, and after that we'd get back in the Lincoln and go to Green Mountain Racetrack for night racing. But one of the things that I miss about Saratoga are the characters. And not just the people, but the trainers. I used to watch, there was a trainer named Major Odom.
Yeah.
Okay, Major Odom. And the guy would put over a horse every meet, every year. It never failed.
How about the Blue Crew? Leon Bluzewicz and
That's
the
right.
Maryland guys came up. They just came up with a truck and took the money home.
Right, but Major Odom was my guy because I followed him everywhere, even to the bathroom, waiting for him to make his move to the window. And he used to stand in the grandstand away from anybody by a tree, by a window, right? Not far from a window. And I would follow him. And those characters don't exist anymore.
No. Barclay Tagg will forever be known for Funny Side. You and I knew Barclay Tagg when he used to ship up here and take money home on the turf before he became Barclay Tagg.
Yeah, and horses would prep at Belmont, like Mac Miller for Rokeby, Tom Rondinello for Darby Dan. These horses would prep, and you knew they were getting prepped for Saratoga. Then you'd have Jimmy Conway come in from Fairgrounds, prep at Belmont with a 10-pound bug boy, Darryl Montoya.
There you go.
Switch to a journeyman rider, bingo, $50, okay? But you had 4 weeks to do it.
Yeah, you had 4 weeks, and that's when you really had the horse for the course. And at that time, there was no career box in the form. I used to clip charts. I had all the horses who would ever want. Quick Call, Maracaibo was a horse from Peter Walder. Maracaibo shipped up here, came through the paddock looking like a monster, aired. Come back the next year, same race, comes through the paddock looking like a monster, airs. Comes back for his 3rd try, comes through the paddock looking like a donkey. Right. Nothing.
You know, something was really sad the other day that you told me.
Oh.
And I actually went to the track the other day to look at it, right? You found the board.
The whiteboard.
The whiteboard in the grandstand that showed the odds.
With light
bulbs in the garbage can. If I had enough chains, right, I would have brought it home and hung it in my living room. I mean, they put a pizza place, right, where the board was. And I'm like, look, something was out of place. And I was out of sorts all day, Saturday and Sunday, looking for the whiteboard. I was circling like a bee, circling a person, waiting, looking for this board. And you're calling me and telling me it's in the trash can.
You couldn't tell the odds because sometimes the light bulb was out. That was what you used to appreciate. Go ahead.
And the other thing, one of the biggest things for me is the clam chowder.
Ah, yes.
Okay.
H.M. Stevens.
Right. It was H.M. Stevens. Harry Stevens did all the food for Naira. And every day I would buy a clam chowder during the 4 weeks. And every day there would be tons of clams in the clam chowder. So Harry Stevens doesn't exist anymore.
Nope.
So they have a guy, the Chowder Man, and he makes the chowder now. And last year I bought it 36 straight days, and I counted 7 clams
Well,
for the whole meat.
He's got one big clam on a string that he dips for the whole day.
Right, and they have the audacity to charge $9 for a chowder, right? That has a total of 6 clams for the whole meat. And one day I took the clam out and I put it under a magnifying glass. And I was looking to see if it's a synthetic clam. So, you know, this back then, even the food was real.
Well, back in the 36-day meet, Nick Kling and I did a show. We used to do a show at the end of the track day, and we'd film while the crew was cleaning up. Remember, before swipe cards and touchstone machine, the place was littered with tickets.
I know.
And what they used to do was they'd bring in propeller fans, and they'd roll the propeller fans and sweep all these tickets and the debris. Nick and I said, the propeller's going behind us in the background. Now there's no more tickets and there's no more scoopers.
And it puts me out of business because I would go around stooping down on the floor looking for these tickets, and they don't exist anymore. None.
I got one more for you, which is really kind of interesting. Yesterday, Saturday, I was standing outside the track, and guy comes out, and he's looking for a daily racing form, and the lady who was selling them outside had already packed up, and I said to him, I says, are they out of forms inside? He looks me out, he says, I can't buy one. I don't have a credit card or a debit card. They won't take cash. I had to walk him in, to use my credit card. I bought him a form, and he went on his happy way. And everything's changed.
Yeah, and that's a problem for me. What do I do with the cash that I have in the floorboards? It's useless now. Cash is no good.
You can't spend it. Now, you know, I'm not going to complain about the stretch, what they've done with the stretch to accommodate younger generation and make it more comfortable for people. All the venues, you know, they got the tailgate, the football kind of thing on the clubhouse turn, which is fine. The verandas, the new paddock suite. We're living in 2023, Wiz, and to a certain degree, you and I are throwbacks. But this is where it's going, and while I fondly remember everything that's not there, I relish everything that is here, and I laud Naira at least for moving us into the 22nd
Right, and we still have memories.
And
those memories live with all of us until the day we die.
Well, let's just say one last thing. I've always said that I've been very fortunate. You know, I said I've been here every meet for 38 years. For me, this is a reunion. It's a reunion. We see people once a year, and because we're here and they come in and out, almost every week is a celebration. And it's wonderful. And if you're out there sitting somewhere not near Saratoga, put it on your bucket list. You got to get here.
Yeah, I agree. Great town, great venue. Just everything is a bad day at Saratoga is a good day anywhere else.
That's right. Well, that's going to do it for this week. We thank you so much for joining us. This is Get Tied on the Wizards Thoroughbred Racing channel, sponsored by
WizardRacingSports.com, where I sell all my products each racing day.
Have a great week.